Layer shifts, clogs, wet filament, and some broken glass. All that and more on this Print Fail Friday, episode 8. Let's get into it. Hey, thanks again for joining us on Print Fail Friday, episode 8. First one we got here is from, well, one of our team members, Justin, who is actively printing for the IC3D Toys for Tots campaign, just like we are. And these are wheels for the little cars. The wheels actually spin on them. And he had a bit of an uh-oh. Let's talk about what happened here. Also, first off, thanks, Justin, for the very nice photo. We can definitely see some layer shifting. I mean, that is quite clear. But to me, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things decided it did not belong. I think that is what resulted in your problem. It looks like this wheel came off, found itself somewhere back there where the printer started running into it. Now, I don't know if Justin has the crash detection turned on. I'm honestly not certain. I know on ours, we turned them off recently, all the crash detection, because when you have all of them running, they hit a resonance and it will trigger crash detection on machines that don't need it triggered. But I don't even know if crash detection would solve this problem. After a couple of crashes, it will pause and it will wait, saying, hey, something's not right here. I need attention. But yeah, bit of a bummer. We can't see how much time he was in on the print, but we can see, he was 35 millimeters, minus whatever amount it raised up. Bit of a bummer, but that all comes down to bed adhesion. Can you prevent that? Maybe. You can look at lowering your Z height ever so slightly to squish that plastic further into the bed. But for something like this where it's nothing but little tiny circles, that's just a tough one, no matter what. So I would look at just redoing the print, making sure that bed is clean, and yeah, call it a day on that one. We got a resin fail for you. What am I doing wrong with round bases, details, and posts? Hi, I'm pretty new to resin 3D printing. Well, hi, I'm Grant. I'm not so new to resin 3D printing, and hopefully we can help you out. And I'm having problems I can't figure out. Okay, let's see what we can do about this. Let me explain. Thank you for doing that. The printer is the Creality Hallet 1. I'm going to start right there and say that the stock FEP on the Hallet 1 is absolutely garbage. Or Hallet? 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 I don't know. It's garbage. And you should look at immediately replacing that FEP. If you are buying these printers, change out the FEP that it comes with from factory. They are very, very thin and have the tendency to actually tear during printing. You don't want to be that guy, so replace them. Or don't get the Hallet 1. I believe Creality needs to fix the VAT before I can actively recommend that printer, but that's my personal feelings. They're working on a base for miniatures, a very, very common thing for resin 3D printing. The base is 30 millimeters in diameter, and we can see the part here. They're using Lychee Slicer. Nice. If you guys don't know what Lychee Slicer is, we'll card to that video so you can take a look at it. They are about to release a big update, so expect a new Lychee Slicer video coming very soon. So make sure you get subscribed if you want to learn all about Lychee Slicer. And I have a feeling that's when we will do a deep dive into resin supports, because this is the big issue. We've got some resin support problems. We've got all of the diameters and lengths for the actual supports. Those are all stock, so we're good there. Lifted from base 3 millimeters. I like 5, but honestly, it should be fine. And we've got okay supports. They're following the Arctan formula to calculate the right degree for a smooth, flat surface for my print, which is 45 degrees in this case. And if they change that angle, it creates artifacts, and the surface of the base goes out smooth with 45 degrees, which makes sense because at 45 degrees, the printer should viably be able to print it with minimal supports. The print time is 4 seconds per layer. That might be a little bit high. The problem is it warps the model when printing. It makes it look melted on the area the supports go in the border. So let's look at something real quick. I want you to start with doing the Amerilabs Town. Amerilabs is the company that is focusing heavily all about your resin printers and getting them to run right. This Amerilabs Town is pretty darn great, and they go through the entire process of how it works, and there are lots of great videos. We'll link to one down in the description by Atlas 3D where they go through the Amerilabs Town print so you can take a look at it and kind of understand it a little bit better. But you want to first make sure that your settings are correct for your material. If you're overexposing or underexposing, you're going to have problems like this. But let's assume you did that. I'm seeing that you don't have enough support material. And you might say, well, Grant, Lychee Slicer says I do. Well, Lychee Slicer's wrong. Lychee Slicer has the ability to set your supports from minimal to ultra. I think ultra is only available to paid subscribers. And the high is the one that is available to free users. But I don't believe that it's normal is enough. I firmly don't believe it's enough. And I look at things like this and say, add more supports to it. There's no reason not to. I don't care about the added minimal expense. Your part coming out perfect is way more important to me. And something like this, it's got a cup in it where you're going to have some suction and resin trap issues. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, but it could be. I don't know how thick the walls are on this, but because we can see that it is elongated here, that is caused from when you're releasing from the FEP. When that part is pulling away from the FEP, it is being stretched ever so slightly. That one can be a little bit difficult, so be wary there. I would look at adding a lot more support all around this edge, preferably more in between these sections here. I think that is the most important thing. You want to add more touch points so that when your part is trying to pull, the supports say, nope, we've got you. I would give that one a shot, but first I would look at printing that Amerilabs Town print. It's a really quick print, like 45 minutes or less on a mono 3D printer. And I think that will give you some, better ideas as to what's going on, and then rerun your print. So I would look at that first. Resin 3D printing can be complicated, and I would be remiss if I didn't do it at least once. That resin is toxic, but you can get this, and I have faith in you. I have faith that you can do it. I think that they've got the right attitude. I just don't think they've got enough support material, and this looks like light supports. I might look at doing their medium supports that are a little bit thicker. I find that the light supports don't hold nearly as well, but that's my personal feeling. Also, you can look at using a different style raft. That's, again, more of a personal feeling. I like that raft, which is just kind of the stock raft that comes on the printer. But when you're doing really big parts, that thing can really get in the way. There are others that you can experiment with if you want to. Personal preference, but, give it a shot, learn. Lychee Slicer is a great slicer. I firmly believe its support algorithm is way too overzealous. This part likely did not need much support here, anywhere near as much as it put. But I think it errs on the side of putting support where it doesn't need it versus potentially missing someplace where it does. And I can't necessarily argue with that fact. But yeah, the Amerilabs test print is pretty awesome. And we'll make sure to link to the direct file down in the description for you. This one comes courtesy of one of our patrons. Jimmy, thank you so much for providing this. We appreciate all the support that you give to the channel. And hey, if you want to support the channel, you can do so over at patreon.com/3D Musketeers, with tiers starting as low as $1. Come on. It's $1 and it helps us make these awesome videos. We would absolutely love your support if you do believe we have earned it. And if not, let me know down in those comments. This one, Jimmy saw this failure pretty early on and let it run its course to see what was going on. He's using GST3D PLA, which I've talked about in the past. I'm wishy-washy on him. He said he's had good experiences with them. So what's this? I have not had great experiences with them, but this is a nozzle clog. You can see that we have some pretty rough under extrusion. It fixed itself, some more under extrusion, it fixed itself, some more under extrusion, some more under extrusion, and eventually it straight up failed. This is a partial nozzle clog. This can come from crap in your filament. It can come from debris in the room, but having talked with Jimmy, I don't think it's from debris in the room. I have reason to believe it's crap in his filament. The other thing he noticed is that he was printing a little too cold. He was printing at like 210 to 215. And when these clogs started happening, he started raising his temperature higher and higher. Now, it could be something like heat soaking, but even with these cheaper printers, we're not seeing heat soaking being a problem. Heat soaking is when you get too much heat into your block and it runs up into your heat sink, basically heating it up, soaking the heat sink with heat, allowing the filament to soften and then kind of jam up and clog up. With enough extruder pressure, you can push beyond it, which could be the cause here, but because we can see quite a few other areas where he's under extruding, I have reason to believe that this is likely a filament problem. Now, he could look at going to a higher temperature. That did appear to solve the problem in a future print, we are told, but definitely something to note. I also had Jimmy go through and measure his filament. The GST3D that we have here is way out of round. It was for the client's Ender 3 Pro that we've been working on. We'll card to that series so you guys can take a look because there is another video coming out on that reasonably soon. But we were seeing all the way down to 1.64 and all the way up to 2.2. which is a massive movement of filament diameter and definitely not good. Jimmy was seeing 1.74 to 1.77. That is within margin, I will say. Most manufacturers try to keep it within 0.02. Prusament can sometimes stay to 4 digits, so 0.000 number, which is crazy high tolerance. It's why Prusament is the price that it is. I highly recommend it as a filament. But realize if you can extrude good diameter filament that has a reasonable roundness, but the material itself, that base material, is just crap, none of that matters. So personally, I would try it with a different filament, see if that works a little bit better. If a higher temp works, do that. You can always run a temp tower to verify what temp works best, because this is PLA plus. Not knowing what they put in their PLA to give it the plus factor, it could be 11 herbs and spices.
Secret's out, chicken man.
It could be, the ingredients to Dr. Pepper.
It's the sweet one.
We don't know, but it's likely something. Sometimes I believe it's polycarbonate, but whatever. You gotta make sure that you're printing at the right temps, or everything else is kind of messed up from there. They were supposed to be straight discs. What happened? Peel forces. TLDR, peel forces. We've got some shifting in these components as they're being printed. And I've seen this occur before, but I don't think I've ever seen it occur this bad. It appears they're using an Anycubic photon of sorts. This appears to be the photon build plate. It's not listed in the post from what I can see. Nope. What I believe occurred here, and I think one of the commenters got it absolutely right, that when the discs are releasing from the FEP film, it is inducing a slight vibration, because they're not going to release identically across the entire layer. You might get, one corner to lift a little bit earlier than others, and that can cause the part to shift ever so slightly. Because you're printing full vertical, you're not supporting them from tilting. And that's why generally we would print things even at a slight angle, because that extra support that touches the part should keep it from shifting forward and backward on a more vertical component. I think this is just all about print orientation. This does suck because this problem is really bad here, which coincides with a part that juts out. And I don't think that is a coincidence. We see it gets bad down here too, where it juts out, and once again down there where it juts out again. These issues are all coinciding with other geometry on the build plate, which of course would lead us to that geometry is causing the parts to pull in a certain direction. And then when they spring back, they may not spring back into the right orientation. I think orienting these instead of being vertical to have at least a 15-degree tilt would definitely help. Yes, that means you'll be able to fit less of them on the build plate, but ensure that they print well. I'm going to go ahead and take multiple prints over failures any day of the week, because ultimately this is all trash, unfortunately. And interestingly, we can see this problem gets worse toward the center and it lessens out toward the edge. I do believe that might be in relation to how the FEP itself is tensioned. If your FEP isn't properly tensioned, it will be a little bit loose in the middle and a little bit tighter at the edges. We can see the damage seems to be the worst right in the middle. Something interesting to look at. Work on your model orientation and you should be good. If you're not using Lychee Slicer, take a look at it. It does have a magic wand feature, as does Prusa Slicer, where it can auto orient. Now, Prusa Slicer does not have the main magic wand. It can do auto orientation, auto supports, and that kind of thing. And especially Prusa Slicer 2.4 allows you to change how that auto orientation works, whether you want to reduce your Z height, whether you want to have the best surface finish, or you want to have the least amount of supports. In Lychee, it just chooses that for you. Why are more than half of my 28mm figurines failing? Printed on a Creality LD002H default G2 box settings. I don't know if that's the right way to say the printer name. Why are they failing? Because you're using default settings. Also, wear some damn gloves. You clearly have raw resin on here. I'll say it again. Resin is toxic. Good Lord. Wear some gloves. Please. You are not running enough exposure. Generally, when parts don't stick like this, it is due to not having enough exposure. Sometimes you'll get lucky and the supports will attach, but I'm also looking at these supports saying these are really thin. I'm not certain if these models are pre-supported. They very well could be. And then you've made them smaller, which is reducing the contact patch of those supports, meaning that they may not be holding all that well. You do clearly have some stuff stuck to your FEP, so make sure you get that off. You can print a plastic scraper. Do not use a metal scraper. Sometimes printers come with the plastic scrapers, try to pop it off the FEP. You can do that with resin still in the printer, or you can drain the resin. If you've got time, drain the resin. But drain it through one of those paint filters that come with most printers. Those paint filters will make sure to filter out any chunks of print that might be floating around in the resin. Then go ahead and clean everything off that FEP. By the way, we're going to have a tools video coming out relatively soon about resin 3D printing. We got some really interesting tools that are working amazingly well for us, and I think you guys might enjoy it. So get subscribed for that one. But I'm a little worried. One, I don't like G2 box. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I don't like G2 box. I believe that every time they've updated their software, it just gets worse and worse and worse for me. I know some people have better experiences. Mine is not great. Personal opinion. This is all about supports. I would also look at, again, running the Amerilabs Town print. We'll, of course, link to that in the description so that you can dial in the settings for this machine, because clearly they're not set right. You could look at reorienting the parts as well. That's why I'm a little bit, maybe these aren't automatic supports. But I think the parts might have been bigger than they scaled them down, because those supports look really, really anemic. I'd highly recommend going over to Lychee Slicer. I think that it gives you more control over your support settings and is a better overall experience in my personal opinion. That's, you know, up to you. You can take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But yeah, look at getting those layer times down right. Something isn't right there. I'm going to follow up with this user. Hopefully we can get this issue dealt with quickly. Somebody learned the hard way that printing PETG on a bare glass bed is a great way to buy a new glass bed. PETG will weld itself to glass and will take chunks of glass with it. You can see clearly now the rain is gone and the print is off. That, yeah, this sucks. It is typical with PETG, and it's why a lot of people say make sure you put down some glue stick, make sure you put down some hairspray, some sort of layer in between the glass and the PETG, or you're gonna have a bad time.
You're gonna have a bad time.
Now, thankfully, glass is pretty cheap. But, hear me out, I think this is the right time to upgrade to a flex plate. Flex plates are awesome, and you can put them right on top of glass if you want. Make sure your bed is not warped if you do put a flex plate on it, because a flex plate is not going to fix a warped bed. We recently did an unboxing of a mutant, but that video is not live yet. It will be soon. And one of those tool heads I'm going to do with the Wham Bam Mutant is put a dial indicator so we can see how bad the run out is on a stock Ender 3, because I'm betting the beds are pretty darn warped and you need the glass to flatten out the bed. And if that's the case, put the flex plate on the bed. But flex plates will make your life a whole lot better, in my opinion. PETG comes off of them good. PLA comes off of them well. Nylon generally comes off pretty easily. TPU, use a textured sheet or put a little bit of glue on there, because TPU can weld itself to flex plates. But flex plates just make it so much easier, and they're so satisfying to just bend the plate, the part pops off, and it makes life so much easier. No more potentially stabbing yourself with a sharp scraper. I have been here before. I have learned the lesson. Flex plate all the things. That's it. Nice and simple. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Print Fail Friday. I'd love to know in those comments, what do you think of some of these fails? The glass bed one is a pretty typical fail that we've seen a few times. Hopefully, if you're watching this and you aren't using anything like glue or hairspray on your glass beds when you're printing PETG, maybe you've just gotten lucky, but hopefully you make that switch so that you don't have that problem. We got a few resin failures in here. We got a few FDM failures in here. Got a good mix of fails this week. It's a good week for fails. I'd love to know your fails as well, because don't forget, you can tag us on Twitter, on Instagram. You can use the hashtag PrintFail, and we do our best to find those and include them in these episodes. So if you want an expert to look at your fails, or you want to show off your fails to the world, go ahead and do it. We'd love to see them. Anyways, guys, stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and an especially huge thank you to all of our patrons. Without you guys, none of this would be possible. If you want to support our efforts directly, you can do so at patreon.com/3D Musketeers, and the $5 tier or higher will get your name listed right next to me. Come on, it's pretty cool. Right below me will be the entire series on Print Fail Friday, so you can take a look to see some of the other fails out there, and hey, maybe you'll get lucky and find one that can help you out too. And right next to it will be our series all on resin 3D printing. We're going to be adding to that soon, so make sure you guys get subscribed and hey, leave a like if you think we earned it. I'll see you all down in those comments. I'd love to know your opinions about these fails and how you think they could have been avoided. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.